Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nayaswami Padma, and I'm here today in this happy new year to bring you some of the noon broadcast of the original teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. And I'm reading out of Swami Kriyananda's autobiography, The New Path. And today's reading is brief. I'm broadcasting to you from Ananda in Washington, by the way, so it's sort of poignant because he says, "Once I met a lady in the state of Washington. She was 80 years old, and all her life she'd been an atheist. By God's grace, at our meeting, she became converted to this path." This is Yogananda speaking. "Thereafter, she sought God intensely. For the better part of every day, whenever she wasn't meditating, she would play a recording of my poem, God, God, God. She lived only a few years longer, but in that short time, she attained liberation." Well, there's a lot in there. Of course, one of the key components being that it doesn't matter the amount of time that we're practicing a spiritual teaching. What matters is the intensity, and by that I don't mean intense, but it's the power, the energy behind that we put into it, I should say, that is important. It's where our hearts are, of course, is first and foremost important. And then he gives us also little hints. I mean, here she was, 80, when she met Yogananda. I cannot tell you how many times I've met people through the years who've said to me, "Oh, I read that book 20 years ago," meaning Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi. "I read it 20 years ago," or "I read it 40 years ago." And then life just sort of took over. And now here I am, 20 years later, 40 years later, walking in the door of this temple, and I'm ready now. I want to know God. I want to know the highest that is within me. I'm ready now. And so this woman, it doesn't matter when we find the spiritual path. What matters is how much we commit ourselves to sticking with it and going deeper with it and practicing it in every moment of our waking hours and taking it into our sleep, being totally devoted to it. It's interesting the way that word works, isn't it? We're devoted to something, which means we have devotion to it. Our heart is engaged in it, as it was for this woman. And the other thing that he mentions, just by and by, if we're interested, is that she would play a recording of his poem, God, God, God. There is such a recording in Yogananda's own voice of that poem. And if you don't have access to that, which these days is probably not the case because you can probably find it on YouTube or, it's easily obtainable these days. But in any case, we can always read it. It's in his book, Whispers from Eternity, the poem God, God, God. It's exquisite. Swami Kriyananda put it to music, a very, very simple tambura background, simple song of the same poem. It is, what he's saying is just that one thing, and she found God in that lifetime. And so it doesn't matter, or it does matter what we select. I mean, assuming we select something from Yogananda's words or writings, or Swami Kriyananda's, for that matter, if we apply ourselves to that wholeheartedly, it can just be one thing. It doesn't even have to be an entire poem. It can just be a phrase within a poem, or a phrase within a song, or a phrase that's an excerpt from one of the beautiful books of any true master, and we will know God. We will experience God. Just one pointed concentration and deep devotion, and we will be there. We are there. We just have to know it. We have to remember it. Joy to you, and we'll see you again on Thursday. And on Thursday, it will be the anniversary of Yogananda's birth. He was born January 5th, 1893. And this Thursday is January 5th, 2023. And I didn't do the math, but I'm sure somebody will let me know what the commemoration of the birthday is, what year it is since January 5th, 1893. Joy to you. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye now.